Welcome to the deep dive. We've been looking into this really fascinating ancient grape, Greco, from southern Italy.
Hmm.
And the story behind it is just, well, incredible. So today we're plunging right into its world.
Yeah, a really noble white variety, brimming with potential, I'd say.
Totally.
Our mission today really is to understand what makes Greco just so special. We'll be digging into its history.
Which is long.
Oh yeah, stretches way back, millennia even, as we'll see. And how its environment, its terroir shapes its character,
Right.
the different winemaking approaches too, how they bring out its best, what it actually tastes like.
Food pairings. Got to talk about those.
Absolutely. And the key regions, the denominations, and maybe some producers you should definitely know about.
And just to set the stage here, did you know this grape story isn't just old? It's like interwoven with ancient Greek colonization.
Right, in southern Italy, Magna Graecia.
Exactly, possibly dating back thousands of years. It's a really captivating connection, and we're going to delve into why that heritage still matters.
And our guide for this is this really insightful exploration just called Greco. It gives a great sommelier's perspective on, well, everything about this grape.
Okay, let's unpack this story, starting right at the beginning, those ancient origins.
Yeah, interestingly, its deep history is really key to understanding Greco today. The source suggests its origins are likely tied to those ancient Greek settlers.
So you came to southern Italy, Magna Graecia, yeah.
Exactly. They probably brought the grapevines with them, found the climate, the soils, just ideal for cultivating it.
So for you listening, that link to ancient Greece really underscores just how long this grape's been around in Italy. Potentially millennia.
It's quite amazing.
And it wasn't just a footnote either, was it? The author of Greco says it's actually one of the oldest cultivated varieties in Italy.
That's right. And its presence, it's documented for centuries across Campania, Calabria, Basilicata, Puglia.
Wow.
Yeah, playing a pretty significant role in their local viticulture, their economies even, really adding to the diversity of Italian wine history.
And building on that, it seems Campania really became its stronghold, its true home. What was it about Campania?
Well, a key thing is the environment Campania offered. It was
Yeah.
just particularly favorable. You have these volcanic and mountainous areas.
Magnetic conditions.
Pretty much ideal growing conditions for Greco to really thrive.
And it wasn't just about survival, right? The source highlights that Greco was actually appreciated for its quality, its distinct character
Yeah.
throughout history.
Precisely. Though, like many grapes, it had its ups and downs, periods of fluctuating production recognition.
Phylloxera, I assume?
Phylloxera definitely hit it hard in the late 19th century. And then changing consumer tastes, that had an impact too.
The story doesn't end there, does it? We're seeing a real comeback now.
We are. And it's interesting, this revival seems largely driven by these really dedicated producers.
Committed to quality.
Exactly. Committed to unlocking its potential, elevating the quality. And this fits, with that growing interest globally in native grapes, terroir-driven wines.
Wines that taste like somewhere.
Precisely. Wines with a sense of place.
And there's even some legend mixed in, is there? The source mentions a connection to, like, a hero or a deity introducing it.
Yeah, it's remarkable how legend connects the grape's introduction to these significant figures. The wines were apparently appreciated by gods, even Roman emperors.
Wow. That really highlights its ancient cultural weight.
It really does. It shows the high esteem it was held in, even back then.
Okay, let's zero in on Campania then.
Yeah.
The source really hammers home why it's the epicenter for Greco. It's not just one thing, is it?
No, it's a combination. You've got the Mediterranean climate, hot, dry summers, mild, wet winters. That's a great foundation.
Sure.
But then the geology is incredibly diverse: volcanic soils, clay, limestone.
And the landscape itself.
Right, the very topography creates all these little microclimates. You get really nuanced expressions depending on exactly where the vineyard is.
And within Campania, one place really shines. Greco di Tufo DOCG in Irpinia. What makes that spot so special?
Greco di Tufo. Its terroir within Irpinia is, well, unique. Those volcanic soils are just loaded with sulfur and other minerals.
From Vesuvius and other volcanoes nearby.
Exactly. A direct result of that geological history.
And those soils, they leave a real signature on the wine, don't they? We hear minerality a lot.
Absolutely. That high sulfur content, for instance, can give it that subtle, flinty, almost smoky note sometimes. It really distinguishes Greco di Tufo.
So it contributes to the elegance, the complexity.
And that pronounced minerality, yeah. often with citrus, herbs, maybe almond, and this distinct stony quality.
But Campania has other Greco expressions too, right? Like Sanio Greco DOC. How's that different?
Right, if you look at the bigger picture in Campania, Saniel Greco DOC covers a wider area, and it has a more varied terroir than just the volcanic focus of Irpinia.
So the wines are.
Often fresher, maybe fruitier profiles. The minerality is usually there, but maybe a bit more subtle.
And Greco didn't just stay in Campania, though that's clearly its main base. The source mentions it popped up elsewhere in the south.
That's right. You do find it cultivated in places like Lazio, Calabria, Puglia, Basilicata, too.
And presumably it tastes different there.
Oh, definitely. In each area, the local microclimate, the specific soils, they all influence the grape, leading to these regional nuances.
It sounds like it faced some tough times historically, too. Phylloxera, for example. How do they deal with that?
Yeah, phylloxera was devastating across Europe. The solution, which was pretty ingenious, was grafting.
Onto American rootstock.
Exactly. Grafting European vines, including Greco, onto American rootstock that was resistant to the pest. It basically saved European wine as we know it.
Wow. And there were economic hurdles, too. Times when Greco just wasn't that popular.
Indeed. It faced competition from, more commercially trendy varieties at different times. And economic hardship in some areas sometimes meant it was just grown for local use, not bigger markets. Subsistence viticulture.
But as we said, there's this modern revival happening now. What's really driving that?
I think it's fundamentally a shift towards quality. There's been real investment in technology, in understanding the viticulture and winemaking better.
And understanding the terroir.
Definitely. A much deeper appreciation of terroir and how to express it.
And that's led to changes in the vineyard itself, right? The source talks about modern cultivation techniques.
Absolutely. Things like clonal selection are becoming more important.
Explain clonal selection quickly.
Sure. It's basically identifying individual vines within the Greco variety that have slightly better characteristics, maybe better disease resistance, or they produce grapes with a slightly more desirable flavor profile, then you propagate those specific vines.
You gradually improve the vineyard stock.
Exactly. Plus, more advanced vineyard management, precision agriculture, it allows for much more targeted care.
And the winemaking's changed, too, from the old ways.
Oh, dramatically. From, rudimentary methods to really controlled fermentation. Temperature control is huge, often using stainless steel tanks.
Preserves the aromas better.
Precisely. And techniques like sur lie aging are more common now.
Aging on the lees, the dead yeast cells.
Right. It adds complexity, a creamier texture, maybe subtle bready notes.
And what about oak? We hear different things about oak in Greco.
Yeah, that's interesting. Traditionally, if wood was used, it was large, old barrels, neutral, so they didn't impart much flavor, just allowed slow oxygen exchange.
Didn't want to mask the grape.
Exactly. But now there's a bit of a trend towards more, let's say, judicious use of newer or smaller oak barrels.
Why?
To add a bit of structure, maybe some subtle spice or vanilla notes. But the key word is judicious. You still don't want to overpower the Greco character. Balance is everything.
So where does Greco stand now in Italian wine? It sounds like it's really gaining ground.
I think that's a key takeaway. It's definitely getting more recognition, both in Italy and internationally, especially driven by the quality coming out of places like Greco di Tufo DOCG.
A promising future, then.
Looks like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Built on quality, that terroir focus, and telling its unique story effectively.
Okay, let's pivot specifically to terroir. The source uses this great phrase, Greco's exceptional dialogue with its environment. What does that mean practically?
It means Greco is really sensitive to where it's grown. It absorbs the nuances, the soil, the climate, the altitude, and expresses them in the wine. Each place leaves its fingerprint.
And Campania, particularly Irpinia and Greco di Tufo, is where this dialogue is loudest, maybe.
Definitely. That connection is so strong there because of those volcanic soils we keep mentioning, rich in minerals.
From Vesuvius and the others.
Right. And those minerals directly influence the wine's character. They give it that distinct minerality, that aromatic depth. It's a real sense of place.
But not just Campania. Lazio has Greco too. How does its terroir play out differently?
Right. Lazio is less famous for Greco, but it's there, often in blends around Cori. The climate is Mediterranean, soils are diverse. It often leads to maybe slightly fruitier expressions, perhaps less intensely mineral than Tufo.
And those other southern regions, Calabria, Puglia, Basilicata, how does their terroir stamp the wine?
Well, that's where you see real diversity. Their unique microclimates, different soil types, local winemaking traditions. It all leads to a fascinating spectrum of Greco styles across the South.
Let's zoom in on the climate. That Mediterranean influence is common. But how does it specifically affect Greco's growth?
Well, the hot, dry summers generally help Greco ripen fully, but the challenge in hotter spots is keeping enough acidity.
Acidity is crucial for freshness.
Absolutely. So careful vineyard management is key there. Maybe canopy management to provide some shade, picking times.
And altitude. That seems important, especially in Irpinia.
Hugely important. Higher altitude means cooler temperatures overall, but also a bigger swing between day and night temperatures, the diurnal range.
And that helps?
Massively. It helps the grapes develop complex aromas while preserving that vital acidity. Slows down ripening just enough.
And back to those volcanic soils again. Sorry to keep harping on it, but the source really stresses their role. What's so special beyond just minerals?
Well, besides the unique mineral profile, that whetstone sulfur saline thing, they also offer excellent drainage. Grapevines hate having wet feet,
Ah, okay.
so good drainage promotes healthy roots. But Greco can adapt to other soils, like clay or limestone, which will influence the body or give different nuances. It's adaptable.
Let's try to paint a picture then. Greco di Tufo DOCG terroir. What does that give you in the glass? Sum it up.
Okay, Greco di Tufo. Volcanic soils, high altitude, big diurnal shift. Result, structured wines, vibrant acidity, citrus, herbs, almond notes, and that distinct sulfur volcanic earth minerality, plus aging potential.
Got it. And Sanyo Greco DOC terroir, in contrast.
Sanyo. More diverse soils, generally maybe lower altitude, result. Often fresher, more aromatic wines up front. Think white fruits, floral notes. Minerality is usually there, but maybe softer, more subtle, more immediately approachable perhaps.
And Lazio Greco.
Lazio's varied, often fruitier, lighter-bodied, good for young drinking. But if it's grown on volcanic soil in Lazio, you can definitely get more minerality too.
Okay. And finally, those other southern spots, maybe warmer areas.
Warmer climates can mean fuller-bodied Greco, potentially lower acidity, maybe riper, more tropical fruit notes. And the soil type, calcareous, clay, sandy, will still shape the structure and aromatics. It really shows how expressive Greco can be.
It's fascinating how terroir shapes it. Okay, let's switch gears a bit to the technical side. Ampelography and viticulture. What exactly is ampelography? Sounds scientific.
It is. Ampelography is basically the science of identifying and describing grapevines based on their physical characteristics, like the look of the young shoots, the shape and texture of the adult leaves, the flowers, the grape bunches, the berries themselves, even the woody canes in winter. It's like a detailed botanical ID for each grape variety.
So what defines the Greco vine visually? Any key characteristic?
Okay, let's break it down based on the source. The young shoot tip often has dense, flat hairs, maybe a bronze-green color on top. The very little red pigment. The first few leaves can be bronzy too.
And the adult leaves?
Medium-sized, roundish, usually 5 lobes. The little gap where the stem joins the leaf often looks like a wedge. Veins aren't reddish. Top surface is smooth. Underside has sparse hairs. Might look slightly bumpy on top. And the leaf edges have teeth that curve outwards.
Okay. What about the flowers and the grape bunches?
Flowers are hermaphrodite self-pollinating, which is typical. The bunch is medium to large, usually cone-shaped, maybe with a little side wing. Berries can be packed fairly tightly.
And the berries themselves, what are they like?
Medium size, sort of oval-shaped, yellow-green to golden when ripe. Skin isn't super thick. Pulp is juicy, tastes pleasant, sweet, but balanced. Not too many seeds, usually.
And in the vine in winter, after the leaves fall?
The woody shoots are typically light brown and look pretty sturdy, robust. Suggests a reasonably vigorous vine.
That's a really detailed picture. Now, the life cycle, bud break to dormancy, what are the key stages?
Standard vine cycle, really. Bud break in spring, new shoots emerge, then flowering, pollination, then fruit set when tiny berries form. Veraison is next, that's the color change, start of ripening.
And ripening is key for Greco, being late ripening.
Crucial. Being late ripening means it needs a long, warmish summer and ideally cool nights towards the end. This allows it to develop all those complex flavors and aromas slowly while keeping good acidity. Avoids getting overripe and losing freshness.
Makes sense. Then harvest? And finally, dormancy over winter. Given this cycle, what does Greco specifically need from its environment?
It needs that climate allowing gradual ripening, avoiding late spring frosts, too much rain near harvest. Good sun exposure is vital for ripening and flavor development, though maybe some protection in really hot spots. And well-drained soils are definitely preferred, especially those volcanic ones.
And how do growers manage the vineyards specifically for Greco?
It needs careful management. Pruning has to account for its growth habits. It tends to focus growth at the tips. Different training systems like VSP are used to manage the canopy, get good sun and airflow.
disease control.
Yeah, it can be susceptible to things like mildew, oidium, so integrated pest management is important. More organic and biodynamic approaches are gaining traction too.
And what about techniques specifically aimed at boosting quality?
Growers use several tools. Clonal selection, like we mentioned. Managing the crop load, maybe doing a green harvest to remove some bunches so the vine focuses energy on the rest.
Leaf thinning.
Yep. Removing some leaves around the clusters for better sun and air helps ripening and reduces disease risk. Good soil management is key. Maybe targeted irrigation in dry years.
And deciding when to pick.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Based on sugars, acidity, pH, tannin ripeness, flavor development. For Greco, it's typically a late harvest.
Seems like a lot of work goes into getting those grapes just right. Okay, from vineyard to winery, vinification. How has the process of making Greco wine evolved?
Well, there's a big contrast between the past and present. Traditionally, fermentation might happen in, say, amphorae, old wood, maybe cement tanks. Temperature control was basic, if it existed at all. Wines were mostly for local drinking, maybe not focused on finesse or aging.
And modern winemaking changed all that.
Big time. Stainless steel tanks brought precise temperature control, huge for preserving Greco's delicate aromas, gentle pressing, clarifying the juice, using selected yeasts, protecting the wine from oxygen. It all leads to cleaner, more consistent, more aromatic wines.
And specific techniques like sur-lie aging, what does that add?
Aging on the lees, those spent yeast cells, adds complexity, definitely. Gives the wine a richer texture, creaminess sometimes, and subtle notes like bread or nuts. Sometimes they stir the lees batonnage to enhance the effect.
And oak aging, how does that fit in now?
Well, as we said, tradition was neutral wood in any. The modern trend is towards careful use of perhaps some new or toasted oak. Not to dominate, but to add maybe a touch of structure, spice, vanilla complexity. It's about integration, not masking the Greco.
So with all these options, what are the main styles of Greco wine produced today? There's a dominant one, right?
Yes. The main style, what Greco's really known for, is dry, aromatic, and structured white wines. These come from really good grape growing and modern winemaking. They're usually medium to full-bodied, nice texture, lots of aroma, white fruits, citrus, floral hints, that minerality.
And acidity.
Vibrant acidity is key. Gives freshness, balance. They often have a long finish, and importantly, many can age really well, developing more complexity.
But there are lighter styles, too.
Definitely. Depending on the terroir, or if the winemaker wants something more immediate, you get lighter, fresher Greco, maybe minimal skin contact, shorter aging, more upfront fruit, zippy acidity, great for young drinking, aperitifs, light foods.
Sparkling Greco, is that a thing?
It is. Greco's acidity and aroma make it suitable for traditional method sparkling wine, like champagne. Not super common, but they can be really elegant.
Any other styles being explored? Late harvest, orange wines.
There's potential, yeah. Late harvest Greco could be interesting, concentrating sugars for sweet wines. And a few producers are experimenting with longer skin contact orange wines, giving amber color, tannins, different flavor profiles. Still niche, though.
Fascinating range. Now let's dig into how those winemaking choices really impact what you smell and taste.
Yeah.
Skin maceration, for instance.
Right, letting the juice sit with the skins. For whites like Greco, how long and how cool you do it matters. Shorter, cooler contact might boost primary fruit aromas. Longer might extract more phenolics, adding texture, maybe a bit of tannin, color depth, more complex aromatics.
And fermentation temperature, you mentioned that's key for aromas.
Crucial. Cooler temps, say 15, 18 Celsius, slow it down. This helps preserve those delicate floral and fruit notes that can easily get lost if fermentation is too hot and fast.
And the vessels? Stainless, cement, oak, what does each bring?
Stainless steel is all about purity, freshness, no flavor added. Cement is fairly neutral too, but slightly porous, allows tiny bits of oxygen in, which can round out the texture over time. Oak, as we know, adds structure, tannins, flavors like spice or vanilla, depending on the type and toast. Needs careful handling with Greco.
And aging sur-lie with batonnage, sensory impact.
Definitely adds body, creaminess, a richer mouthfeel, and those complex aromas, bready, yeasty notes, can improve aging potential too.
So the winemaker's role is clearly huge in all that.
Absolutely central. They're making decisions constantly: harvest timing, pressing, yeast, maceration, temperature, aging. They're interpreting the grapes, the vintage, the terroir, aiming for a specific style. It's a real blend of art and science.
Clearly. Okay, let's get to the payoff. the sensory experience. What aromas typically jump out of a glass of Greco?
Greco can be really aromatic, even young. You often get bright citrus lemon, pink grapefruit, stone fruit too, like white peach, apricot. Floral notes are common: orange blossom, honeysuckle.
And minerality.
Oh yeah, especially from volcanic soils like Greco di Tufo. That flinty, wet stone, sometimes slightly sulfurous note is quite distinctive. With age, you might get dried herbs, almond, honey, beeswax notes developing.
And on the palate, how do those aromas translate into flavor?
Pretty closely, usually. You'll taste that citrus and stone fruit. The vibrant acidity is a hallmark, refreshing, but usually well integrated. And that minerality comes through on the palate too, maybe as a saline tang or an earthy, chalky feel.
What about structure and body? Is it light or more substantial?
Greco usually has noticeable structure for a white. Good balance of acidity, maybe some subtle tannin feel from skin contact, and medium to full body. It feels like it has presence, more substance than some lighter whites.
Aging potential, especially for Greco di Tufo.
Yeah.
How does it evolve?
Good examples, especially from Tufo, can age beautifully. The aromas shift from fresh fruit to dried fruit, apricot, fig plus honey, nuts, spice, maybe even that hint of petrol like aged Riesling.
And the palate.
Acidity softens a bit, integrates more. Texture might become silkier, richer. Fruit flavors get deeper. Minerality integrates. The finish gets longer, more complex. It's quite a transformation.
And terroir's influence is huge here, as we've discussed. Volcanic soils bring minerality.
Right. Clay might give more body, limestone, different mineral nuances. Climate affects ripeness, acidity. The type of fruit flavors: cooler means more citrus floral, warmer means riper fruit honey.
And winemaking choices reinforce this.
Definitely. Skin contact boosts richness and texture. Cool fermentation preserves delicate aromas. Surly aging adds body and complexity. Oak adds structure and spice if used carefully.
So can you quickly profile the main styles again, sensorially? Greco di Tufo versus Sanio Greco.
Sure. Greco di Tufo. Expect marked minerality, flint sulfur, citrus, almond notes, good structure, aging potential. Sanio Greco, generally fresher, more aromatic upfront, white fruits, flowers, lighter body maybe, vibrant acidity, often best enjoyed younger.
Wood-aged or Surly-aged?
Wood-aged adds layers of toast, spice, vanilla, fuller body, longer finish. Surly-aged gives more body, creamy texture, maybe those brioche yeasty notes.
Great. Any quick tasting tips for someone trying Greco?
Serve it at the right temp. Maybe 10-12 degrees C for structured ones like Tufo, a bit cooler for fresher styles. Use a decent white wine glass. Consider decanting older ones briefly.
And when tasting?
Engage all senses. Look at the color, swirl, smell deeply. Taste, notice the acidity, fruit, minerality, body, texture, finish. Think about the balance and complexity.
Excellent advice. Now let's talk food pairing. Greco is versatile, the source says.
Hugely versatile. That acidity, complexity, and structure make it really food-friendly.
Obvious starting point. Regional Italian food, especially from Campania.
Absolutely. Natural fit. Think Greco di Tufo with seafood oysters, grilled fish, spaghetti alle vongole. Its acidity cuts through richness too, so perfect with fried calamari or even pizza margherita.
Jesus.
Fresher styles like mozzarella di bufala with younger Greco. More structured Greco can handle medium-aged cheeses like provolone di Monaco or caciocavallo.
Pasta. White meats.
Works great with seafood pastas, light vegetable sauces. And simpler chicken or turkey dishes pair well with more structured Greco.
What about beyond Italy, international cuisines?
It's pretty adaptable. Great with lots of Mediterranean dishes. Olive oil, herbs, veggies can work with some Asian food too, especially seafood or herb-heavy dishes, but maybe avoid super spicy stuff.
Can you give more specific pairings by style? Classic Greco di Tufo.
Okay, classic Tufo. Oysters, spaghetti alla vongole, grilled sea base, seafood risotto, eggplant parmesan, medium-aged cheeses.
Fresher Sanio Greco.
Think salads with goat cheese, shrimp sautéed with garlic, steamed fish with veggies, simple tomato basil pasta, light appetizers.
What about a wood-aged Greco?
That can handle richer things: grilled lobster, fatty fish like salmon or tuna, roasted chicken with herbs, mushroom risotto, aged hard cheeses like Parmesan.
And the Surly-aged one.
Think creamy seafood risotto, fish with butter sauces, richer poultry dishes, maybe something with truffles.
Wow. Any final tips for creating great Greco food moments?
Temperature and glassware matter. Think about the sequence of having multiple courses. Remember, acidity is key for cutting richness. Explore local Campanian pairings, they're often spot on. Share the wine's story. And honestly, experiment and trust your own taste.
Fantastic ideas.
Ah.
Okay, let's talk about the specific places and people behind the wine. Denominations and producers. Key denominations first.
Primarily in Campania, as we've established. Greco di Tufo DOCG in Avellino Irpinia is top dog. Volcanic soils, minerality, structure, aging, DOCG since 2003.
Right. And Sanio Greco DOC.
That's in Benevento, also Campania. Broader area, generally fresher, more aromatic, fruity floral styles compared to Tufo.
Any others in Campania where Greco appears?
Smaller rolls and blends in places like Salento DOC or Vesuvio DOC, contributing acidity and structure, but not the star.
And outside Campania, Lazio, Calabria.
Found in smaller amounts, often in blends, less prominent than in Campania.
And important to distinguish Greco di Tufo from Fiano di Avellino, DOCG, right? Both from Irpinia.
Absolutely crucial. Fiano di Avellino is only Fiano grapes. Greco di Tufo is primarily Greco. Two distinct, high-quality whites from the same neighborhood.
What about the rules? DOCG regulations.
They cover everything: permitted grapes, vineyard density, maximum yields, ripeness levels, winemaking, aging, labeling. It's all about ensuring quality and typicity.
Specifics for Greco di Tufo DOCG.
Minimum 85% Greco, max 15% Coda di Volpe Bianca allowed. Defined production zone, minimum alcohol, often some aging required. There's also a spumante version with stricter rules.
And Sanio Greco DOC.
Also minimum 85% Greco. The rest can be other authorized local white grapes. Might have subzone rules too.
Got it. Now, producers. Who's making great Greco we should look for? The source lists some key names.
Yeah, lots of great ones, but some standouts. Mastro Bardino Historic Estate, their Novacera Greco di Tufo is a benchmark, classic, ages well.
Okay.
Cantina del Taborno, part of Fiudi di San Gregorio, their Fidelisania Greco is lovely, fresh, aromatic. Terradora di Palo makes an excellent Greco di Tufo. Loggia della Serra, known for minerality and elegance. Vomito Ferrara, small family place. Their Vigna Cicogna Greco di Tufo is concentrated, complex, ages beautifully. Struzziero, traditional style, good structure. Fadiperti Traierte, Antonio di Grotola, pure, mineral-driven, elegant. And Contrada Iorio, newer producer, really promising, fresh, mineral style.
That's a great list to start exploring things.
Yeah.
Okay, wrapping up. Challenges and future perspectives for Greco. What hurdles does it face?
Well, climate change is a big one. Late ripening needs that acid balance. Rising temps, erratic weather are real threats. Adaptation in the vineyard is key.
Competition, too.
Definitely. Competing with globally known whites like Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, needs effective marketing to communicate its unique points. Consumer awareness is still growing outside Italy, too.
And maintaining quality.
Yeah.
Sustainability.
Always crucial. Ensuring high standards while adapting. And embracing sustainability environmentally, but also preserving old vines, traditions, that heritage connection.
What about research and innovation? Where's that focused?
Lots happening. In viticulture. Better clonal selection for resilience, rootstock research, precision farming, water management. In the winery, experimenting with yeasts, fermentation, skin contact, different vessels, steel, oak, cement, amphore, sur-lie technique.
Developing new styles, too.
Yeah, pushing boundaries with sparkling, late harvest, orange wines, maybe lower alcohol styles. It's about keeping it dynamic.
So what's the overall outlook? Promising.
I think so, yeah. Good potential both in Italy and internationally. Growing interest in authentic terroir wines helps Greco.
How do they position it?
Emphasize the volcanic terroir connection, the minerality. Highlight food pairing versatility. Position it as a high-quality white with aging potential. Tell that ancient story. Enotourism in Campania helps too, building that connection.
Sounds like a bright future.
Let's summarize then. Our deep dive shows Greco as this ancient, noble white, mainly from Campania, tied to ancient Greece. Quality shaped by volcanic terroir, giving vibrant acidity, complex citrus, fruit, floral, mineral notes, structure, aging potential, especially Greco di Tufo DOCG. Versatile styles, great with food.
And a final thought to leave you with. Considering its ancient roots and this modern comeback, is Greco maybe poised to become the next big thing in high-quality Italian white wine globally? What else is waiting to be discovered in its terroirs and potential? Perhaps that next bottle you open holds a clue. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Greco.